sophisticated resort, and it's been a firm winter favourite with British holidaymakers for many years now. But first, to get to Jamaica, you have a choice of 4 flights a week, from Heathrow or Gatwick to Kingston or Montego Bay. Flight time is nearly 10 hours. Until March the 15th, the cheapest Apex fare is £440 return. You must book at least 2 weeks in advance and stay for a minimum of 7 nights and no longer than 1 month. Both Negril and Ocho Rios are about 90 minutes from Montego Bay, where most holidaymakers arrive. Ocho Rios has gone up in the world since its days as a sleepy fishing village. It's to hotels like the Sans Souci that it owes its exclusive image. An oasis of tropical living, the cliffside hotel's many facilities include a swimming pool fed by mineral springs, centrepiece of the health spa. Generous-sized suites with their own secluded balconies mostly look out to sea. All are elegantly decorated and air-conditioned. 2 weeks cost £1,650 a person from the new year until April. From then to June, the price drops to £1,320. Return flights from London are included, but meals are extra. Ocho Rios is the best located resort for excursions. The Martha Brae is the nearest of 4 rivers, where you can float downstream on bamboo rafts, once used for transporting bananas. Appropriately, it was the swashbuckling Errol Flynn who hit on the idea of ferrying tourists instead. Noel Coward was another celebrity attracted by Jamaica's lifestyle. Many of his works were inspired by this setting. Firefly Hill became his writing retreat, and today much of it remains exactly as it was during the 18 years that he worked, lived and entertained here. The Queen Mother once came to tea, and other visitors included a roll call of Hollywood stars. The atmosphere is incredible. It's quite extraordinary how you can still feel the presence of Noel Coward. It's so peaceful here. It's where he was happiest, and it's not hard to understand why, is it? He's buried on the hillside where he took his first drink of the evening, and where, it's been written, he experienced laughter learnt of friends and gentleness, his heart at peace under a Jamaican heaven. And now we have to move on. And for our final report, we go to the place which is newest in the package holiday brochures. It takes a little over 12 hours to fly to Goa on India's west coast, with a stopover in Bahrain. The beach resorts featured for the first time this winter lie each side of the capital Panji. John Carter reports from 2 of them.
India has impact, instant impact. On that first bus journey from airport to hotel, or riding in some other bus on an excursion trip, the sights, the sounds and the smells of India assault all your senses. You're in a different world. This isn't a holiday, it's an experience. Goa is a special part of India. For 4.5 centuries, it was ruled by the Portuguese, and the architectural evidence of their occupation is still to be seen. But the buildings, with their reminders of a Western culture, stand like forlorn islands in a sea of humanity that is unmistakably of the East.
If till now you've never travelled farther than the Canary Islands or possibly Florida, and that applies to most people on this Intersun holiday, and India is a complete culture shock. It's not just another destination to be visited and looked at, but somewhere that you've got to experience. You've got to plunge into it. And where better to plunge in than a market like this one?
The town's Mapusa, the market's magnificent. Saris and spices, vegetables and fruit, and stallholders anxious to make a sale. Some faces exchange stares, most are indifferent to the camera, a few avoid it. And all the time the square's alive with the sound of haggling. Goa is a speck on India's western shore, the Malabar coast, and the holiday company promotes that coast as its main attraction. India's top beach resort, the brochure boasts, and lists 7 beaches to choose from. Candolin Beach is in the northern part of Goa, and splendid it certainly is. Right behind it is the Goin Heritage Hotel. The brochure gives it a 2-star rating and promotes it as somewhere for simple relaxation. I thought it was somewhat isolated, but the people staying there told me they had no complaints on that score. It was simple but comfortable, and the only drawback was the long time it took, close on 3 hours, to get here from the airport. Think of India and you think of steam trains. A popular excursion on this package deal was a day trip from a town called Vasco da Gama to another one called Chandor, a day of nostalgia. At £20.50 a head on the expensive side, but it certainly adds to the sum of your Indian experience. And you do get high tea at the end of the day. Steam trains are one legacy of British rule, along with hot curries and a Byzantine bureaucracy. The customers on this particular holiday approached the trip with trepidation, but seemed to be enjoying it. It certainly made a change from the 8:15 to Victoria. The capital city and main port of Goa is spelled Panaji, but pronounced Panji or Panjim, depending whether your mother tongue is Konkani, Marathi, Portuguese or English. Until the middle of the 18th century, it was no more than a village, but the Portuguese chose it as their new capital when they moved from the plague-ridden city of Old Goa a few miles upriver. It's colourful and lively, and, as elsewhere in India, they drive like maniacs, so watch out when you cross the street. Our visit coincided with a water sports festival and regatta. There were several decorated boats and a great deal of noise. The people of Panjim seem to regard noise as essential to any celebration. So if you don't like pop music at full blast over a PA system, be warned. There was a bridge over the Mandovi River, but it recently fell down. Until they build a new one, a time-consuming ferry is the only way across. That's something else to bear in mind. There is a quiet side to Panjim, in the streets of what they call the Latin Quarter, where old Portuguese-style houses are to be found. On Dona Paula Beach, about half an hour from Panjim, is the Cidade de Goa Hotel. The brochure calls it luxurious. As well as 2 swimming pools, it has tennis courts, a sauna and a gymnasium if you're the active type. It was comfortable and convenient, with large and cool air-conditioned rooms. There's an air-conditioned restaurant too, though most people seem to prefer the informality of the open-sided buffet restaurant. We stayed at the Cidade de Goa, and I'd rate it equivalent to a European 3-star hotel. Located right on the shore of the Arabian Sea, the hotel naturally makes a feature of its water sport facilities. Sailing dinghies and catamarans or powerboats for water skiing are all available. As are water scooters, and, as everywhere these days, windsurfers. This chap was very good. Meanwhile, back in Panjim, it's time for some useful information.
Well, here's a travel tip for Goa. If you spot something that's yellow and black, it's probably an overripe banana. If you spot something that's yellow and black and has wheels, then it's a taxi, no matter how improbable that might seem. These are taxis plying for hire at the rank at the Panjim ferry landing. Tell me, if I come on your taxi, do I get a helmet too?
No.
No helmet?
No.
Well, I think, if you don't mind, I'll choose something else. The Cidade de Goa Hotel, please.
Rickshaws are a nippy and novel alternative if your journey's not a long one. There are, of course, proper taxis, yellow and black and looking like old Morris Oxfords, which isn't surprising because that's what they are. You can hire a driver and his car for a day for about £10, and he could well take you to the beaches at the southern end of Goa's 82-mile-long coastline. About 20 miles down from Panjim is Culver Beach. A couple of hotels there are featured in the brochure, but it's more popular with local people than foreign tourists. We spent one evening at a private house in Panjim, and it was an odd experience, sitting on an Indian veranda, clapping time to a lively Portuguese tune. But Goa is, despite Kipling, the place where East and West did meet all those centuries ago, and it has a strong Portuguese heritage. As part of her hospitality, our hostess offered a buffet meal. Here, as elsewhere, there are few concessions to Western tastes. If your experience of eating Indian food is in the flock wallpaper setting of your local tandoori, then Goa will spring a few surprises. I, for one, hope it always will.
The people round here are very friendly and welcoming, and nothing's too much trouble for them. Just a few minutes ago, the lady of the house here said she wanted to make us all feel at home. Well, she certainly succeeded in doing that, and this, our last evening, will be a very good memory to take with us from Goa.
At the Goin Heritage, you pay from £436 to £565 a person in a room with shower, loo and sea view, but no air conditioning. At the Cidade de Goa Hotel, 14 nights cost from £524 to £709 a person, with private facilities, sea view and air conditioning. All prices include bed and breakfast, return flights from Gatwick and transfers.
Well, these are the Dunn's River Falls, one of the most popular tourist attractions in Jamaica. And you clamber up the rocks and go through the water. And just before I continue on my way, let me tell you that for every programme in this series, we're producing a fact sheet. And if you want the details of all the holidays we've looked at today, then that's fact sheet number 2. We'll give you the address in just a moment. Next week, John will be reporting on family holidays in France. Annika will be joining a painting holiday in Wales. And I'm off sampling a shopping break in New York. I can hardly wait. See you then. Bye.
For details of all the holidays featured in this programme, see page 194 of ITV's Oracle Teletext service. If you'd like a fact sheet giving details of holidays featured in tonight's programme, send a large, stamped, self-addressed envelope to Wish You Were Here, Fact Sheet 2, P.O. Box 50, Bromley, Kent,